the game while you listen.
What's going on here?
But this ragtag crew of adventurers is covering the problems of the average player.
Where should I begin?
Discussing the home brews, modules, and the latest content for all things D&D.
What in God's holy name are you blathering about?
It's Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's recipes for everything.
What you're feeling is so normal and perfectly natural.
With your host, the Pirate Captain.
Everybody loves me, and I don't know why. I'm an asshole. I really am. The Pirate Captain is a dick.
Chef Bolgg.
Let me take a couple steps back so I can, really get this point across.
It's bullshit!
And Loke the Bard.
Instead of making a deal with Cthulhu or, the greater devil, you found an imp who was willing to give you dark vision in exchange for a gallon of blood.
With a little mayhem, mischief, and a bit of bardic charisma, it's time for the show.
Arr, that's right. We be back at it, boys. It's another wonderful episode of Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's recipes for everything. Always with me, bestest buddy Bolgg.
That's me.
Loke the Bard.
I'm here.
Mr. Producer.
Hey, guys.
And of course myself, the titular Pirate Captain. What's happening, everybody? It is the Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's recipes for... You gotta say these names a couple times in a row. You really gotta let them know who we are. Because we don't even really know who we are. We're just a bunch of goobers. We're the guys across the table playing the game just like you, and we are covering the average problems of the average player. And boy, we got a show to get into you. I want to go right into the show. We'll talk more about the socials and stuff later. I want to get right into the show today because I got to tell you, a lot of stuff happened this week. A lot of major news happened this week, and I think a lot of it really boils down to the big news being that speculation that Tencent was going to be buying D&D, that Hasbro was selling out. And obviously we have our own thoughts on this. I missed this story. Like, I was a day late. I was finally sitting down to check in on the story, and that's when Hasbro quickly came out. And I say quickly, I think it took them like a day to come out and refute the rumors. It was almost like they didn't want to argue with it. Like, they were just gonna let it be. They're like, we'll let it stew for a little bit. What do you fellers think?
Oh, you want my conspiracy theory?
You know what? Fine, I'll take it.
If they were in negotiations with someone else, and this story came out that they were still shopping around, they would want to kill that story really quick.
But wouldn't that be bad for the like? Let's say Tencent was. Let's say your theory is correct. I mean, I'm fine with that. But if Tencent was the buyer, and they're like, oh, well, we're not selling to Tencent. Wouldn't that kind of make you mad as Tencent?
If Tencent was the potential. Now, what if Mattel is the potential buyer?
I don't think Mattel.
You're talking to Mattel. You're negotiating price, and then all of a sudden the story comes out where this is being shopped to other customers.
I don't think Mattel, though.
I don't think Mattel would do it.
I don't think Mattel would buy it. Yeah, it's good in theory as like a placeholder for said other company, but I don't think Mattel wants anything to do with D&D. Mattel's making so much money off Barbie; they're about to make a killing for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
How about this tinfoil hat?
Okay,
you just strap it on there. What if
tinfoil
Hasbro was the ones who dropped that leak themselves to gauge where people are like, are they excited about maybe we're getting rid of it? Are they angry? And then maybe they just chose the wrong damn company because everybody hates Tencent.
So your theory is closer to mine. Your theory is absolutely closer to mine. My theory actually is that they were going to sell it to Tencent. They just weren't going to tell anybody. And we're seeing this a lot more where, like, I don't know if it's like disgruntled employees or stuff like that. Hey, look, you just fired my friend right before Christmas, and now his kids had to buy D&D 5 ebooks for Christmas. And so I'm going to leak out who you sold this to. I think it was a leak that they were going to sell it to Tencent, though. Like, I don't think it was actually going to sell it to somebody else, but that, just like your theory, but everything kind of like was leaked. It's all true. That's my personal thing on it. Well, but I don't know who wants to buy it right now. Like, it's such a garbage brand right now.
Did this speculative article mention like a price that they were looking to set?
No,
Was it
the
rumored to sell a certain
the
price?
originating article was an article from China.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one, a lot of the details get very obscured because it's not in English. So trying to dig through it. Now the guys over at Roll for Combat have done a lot of the research, and their personal theory is that that the article was based on their video from when they were suggesting, because Larian Studios is 30% owned by Tencent.
Oh,
And so their theory was that or their suggestion was that D&D should Larian would want D&D so that they'd have the rights to make future games and et cetera, but they wouldn't have the money to pay for D&D, so that their parent company, as a 30% shareholder, would come in and be the ones that would have to buy it out.
There's a lot of red yarn.
Chinese, this Chinese article, almost word for word, copied that proposal from that video.
I want to just touch on something the pirate captain said real quick. What he was saying, saying D&D is a trash brand, or I'm sorry, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, it's an absolute trash brand. Go ahead and tell me.
But we're coming off of Baldur's Gate 3 just winning Game of the Year.
Okay, I think Baldur's Gate 3 is different though from D&D, and we'll talk more about that.
But
I think the Hasbro taint is what you're feeling there more than the D&D taint.
No, because I've already said it in the past that Jeremy Crawford and all this game design that they've done recently, and we're going to be talking about the PHB and the stories that are coming around that, and just completely ignoring the players, ignoring the people that are buying their books, and saying, well, we're going to give you what you think we want. I will still refer back to that video right now of Wizards of the Coast will tell you, will sell you what you don't want and get mad at you because you didn't buy it. All right. They're the bad brand because it's bleeding over into Magic the Gathering. People are still buying Magic the Gathering cards because it's a known game. And you know what? I'll take a correction on this one. You're right. People will still buy this stuff because there are fans that just want to hope on it, but they're not enough. There's just not enough there to support it.
Certainly nobody in this podcast has a couple of Commander decks pre-ordered for the Fallout release this month.
I mean, I started playing another game that I thought was that plays just like Commander and is a lot of fun. I just haven't. I think I'm going to go this weekend and play because I haven't played in a bit, and that aggravates me. But that's people are going to buy it. People are going to buy the content, but people are hating the quality of the cards. They're hating the abilities of the cards. They're hating the fact that they're reprinting old cards that some of them can't even be played anymore. But we're going to reprint it, so now you're devaluing their investment into this. They're just doing things that actively hurt the consumer, and it's just trash sales strategy.
Yeah, but really I think you're underestimating the cultural influence, the history behind the name D&D.
Look, with 50 years of history, happy birthday, by the way, 50 years of history, you're right. There's a lot there. But the thing is if you're going to, in the first several years and stuff like that, all the way up until about 4th edition, no offense to people who hated 4th edition, but honestly, 5th edition being the most popular, I think that's a lot of that has to do with a lot of this with Critical Role and Stranger Things and stuff like that. But 2nd and 3rd editions being the more popular of those versions, and then the 1st edition being the iconic one. 4th edition kind of sucked. 5th edition, it started off pretty good, but it's just been so much that they're trying to recreate this whole player's handbook and trying to just survive off the name instead of just creating a whole new edition. The brand itself is garbage.
If somebody were to buy it, they would have the power to release the 6th edition.
Yeah.
And make it good.
And honestly, I think it would be a power move by Mattel to finally go. The biggest fuck you to Hasbro would be to buy up Wizards of the Coast, get all of those brands, and then make them what they were again.
Yeah.
I think it'd be more likely, like, I don't know if they could afford it, but like a Paizo or a Cobalt Press, somebody who's already in the industry.
I'd like to see Paizo do it. Paizo would be awesome. Because Paizo has things that they do things that I think are like, they do some questionable stuff that I don't care for, but they do stuff like, oh, they'll fix things with their, okay, hey, you didn't like this, we'll do that. I don't think Mattel doesn't want to worry about this stuff. They don't want to deal with all this stuff. They're making Taylor Swift Barbie dolls already for the Super Bowl, and those things are gonna, like, Mattel's gonna make so much stupid money this year. It's going to be ridiculous. They don't want to deal with
company making toys.
I know, right? Where we heard that concept before. You know what's funny is we talked about that, and then about a week later, somebody said the exact same thing, and I was like, "Well, I really wish I had that video on the top of my head, and I wanted to send it to you because you're the one that came up with really that concept, and that was the funny part about all of that. Like, as soon as we said it, other people were like, well, yeah, we should definitely. But I think that D&D, and it's not that, I'm not saying it's complete trash. I'm not saying that it's not redeemable. Like, it's redeemable. You could come in and fix this. It starts by wiping the slate clean and starting from the ground up again. And probably even what you've worked on right now and going up. It's just a garbage brand, though, right now. And I don't know if Mattel would be willing to invest in that.
One thing I haven't seen us talk about, at least, is with the possibility of a new edition coming out, or this, whatever Frankenstein they're creating. There's a ton of content built for 5th edition right now. I mean, there's hours upon hours of homebrew content made for 5th edition.
Right, homebrew.
So I could see, some people not caring about 6th edition for a while, or 5.5 or 1 or whatever they decide to call it.
Well, it's like a plane, all right? A plane moving at its fastest isn't at takeoff. It takes a little while to build up, and then once it takes off, that's when a plane's moving its fastest.
Yeah, but they're going to look at launch statistics, and
but you also look at like the PlayStation 4 and 5. Right now they're overlapping, but they're slowly going to phase out to stop making new games for the 5 or the 4. Sorry, that eventually, if you want new content, you'll have to go to the new edition. Is basically how. And right now, Hasbro that's part of the controversy with them, is they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. They're trying to release a new edition and make by keeping it backwards compatible, so all that old content is still good. You still can use all that old content, so that period of that new edition not taking off doesn't happen as much. But I don't think it'll work that way, because
I think even if you came in and released it as a whole new edition, like wiped away all this stupid stuff, and I keep saying this, I know, you wipe away this idea of, it's just gonna be, it's backwards compatible, bro. When has backwards compatibility ever really worked out for anything other than Xbox? Shout out to Xbox. But just, I think if you sold the new edition to a new company, like, hey, look, let's start over from this ground up. We'll use Tencent as just the perfect one for this one. Let's say we're selling it to Tencent from the ground up. Make this new edition. We're going to produce it out. I think it would probably do really well. One, you're going to get people who want to buy the new books, not right away. Yet again, it's that plane analogy. It's going to take a little bit to build up, and then once it finally gets off and it's taken off, it'll fly. And I guarantee you Tencent would probably do what we've said that Hasbro needs to do. Hasbro needs to start making the miniatures, the toys, get away from this pay-for-play model. That's the biggest issue. Like, I don't know where people, like, I get where the idea came from, that, we'll make these loot boxes and stuff like that people love to pay for, but nobody likes that anymore. Like, it was cool the first few rounds, and companies were like, well, we could just charge them for this skin. And now you're getting like the kids that are paying Fortnite skins. You're not recreating Fortnite. You're not. It's out there. So getting us to pay to play this game is just going to disenfranchise your entire player base. They don't want to do that.
Yeah, D&D has always been one of the, I guess, more cost-effective games. We have certain members at our table who, don't bring their own dice, don't bring their own book, show up and are still able to play.
Don't be nice to him. It's Baka.
Yeah, it's absolutely Baka.
But you can still do it. I mean, you could play D&D as it is currently on a budget. You
you got the story of the prisoners that played in prison using a deck of cards. Like,
yeah,
that's you're absolutely right that it can be played on a budget. But you're going to take away that budget thing if you're going the way that Hasbro wants to go, which is this like pay to play.
Hasbro doesn't like that you can play on a budget. They want you to have to buy every book and every mini and every,
Well, make the fucking content that's worth it.
Right.
And then you'd be surprised what people would pay for. Nobody wanted freaking coffee shops in D&D. Like, people were like that's kind of like the role play weirdos in high school. You ever remember those guys? Like, I'm not saying, like, obviously we played D&D, but we role play. But these were the ones that were sitting in, like, the middle of the cafeteria, almost like they had a whole theater troupe. And it wasn't because people were watching them because they were entertained. It's because they're like, bro, what the hell's going on in the center of the cafeteria?
Well, and a lot of it is kind of like the accessibility stuff. I'm all for accessibility. Everything's great. But at some point you got to go, okay, making like content for wheelchair bound players.
You know how you're
not going to find a dungeon that's wheelchair accessible.
Says the guy who played a senator and tried to go up a freaking rope ladder.
Exactly. I shouldn't have been able to do that.
Well, you didn't. I called you out. But I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I've said this before in the past. You want to know how you make this game accessible to everybody? You go to the wheelchair guy. Hey, man, we're playing D&D. You enjoy that? You want to come play with us? That's how you make it. He wants to live out his fantasy of being able to walk.
It sounded meaner than you meant it, but
I mean, what kind of person?
The DM rules that even in fantasy you can't walk.
Like, think about that. Think about that. Who in their right mind says, you know what? I can't walk right now. The one thing I want to pretend to do right now is not walk even further. Does that not like just go? Hold on. Wait a minute.
Also,
wait a minute.
You live in a in a system. Your character lives in a system where lesser restoration
exactly
is around and is cheap. Why are you still in a wheelchair?
Bro. Hey, not everyone can pay for healthcare, man. I don't know what your healthcare system's like.
Maybe he likes being pushed around. The reason the Chinese
no, that's just
Chinese
that's
emperors had the long fingernails and couldn't wipe their own ass as proof.
That's somebody with a daddy complex. God,
that's somebody playing Gypsy Rose right there.
That's the most insulting thing that I think that Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast has done with a lot of this stuff. Is like you're insulting these players of people who just want to live in fantasy worlds. Like I'm going to tell you, anybody who watches an isekai anime thinks how cool it'd be sometimes not to really die and be born again in another world, but just to go to another world and hang out. I mean, most fantasy nerds do that. That's why, we're big lovers of Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and all this, because we're like, man, wouldn't it be really cool to go into Star Wars and learn how to use the Force, or maybe go to Lord of the Rings and hang out with the hobbits, or probably not too much because the Shire gets invaded. I'm like, I don't want to. But that's the part about this fantasy world. When you're not making content for this stuff, when you're trying to play all these things and all these, it's identity politics, and I hate talking about this stuff because it really does, but it's the truth of the matter. We want to make stuff that just doesn't make sense. Let's make coffee shops and schools and stuff like that, and nobody wants that. We want these fantasy settings that deal with the worlds that you have that are created out there. Faerun, it's awesome. We want to see what other friends created. There are great homebrew sites out there that they could go in and create all these amazing stories out of, and actually probably pay these guys a little bit of a licensing fee to say, hey, man, I'd love to use your story, create something, a world, a campaign setting out of this. It's on D&D Beyond. They've already said that they could do that. You pay these publishers, they get a little bit of money about it, and people are like, yeah, again, the best are going to rise to the top. But when you do dumb things like, well, people in a wheelchair want to play a character in the wheelchair. No, the fuck they don't. They want to be able to imagine walking. I'm going to tell you, when I broke my ankle and when I broke my hip, same freaking leg too, the one thing that I dreamed of most when I couldn't move was freaking being able to move. I hated having to limp around. Rant over.
Well,
The idea of an OSHA paladin is kind of a funny concept, though.
An OSHA paladin? That
Yeah.
shit would be
OSHA.
hilarious because OSHA is the biggest goddamn scam to work.
I saw a great to kind of like further your point. I saw a great comic where they were like, it was a mission board for outside of a tavern. And there was like a full party gathered around it, and the comic was like fantasy. Oh yeah, we'll choose this one. Medieval fantasy. None of us know how to read. We're gonna choose the one that has the biggest number.
Yeah. It's we've gotten away, and this is our D&D podcast, but we're gonna reach into pop culture. Obviously, Power World, biggest game out there right now, 19 million freaking players. It's huge. All right. The devs, you want to know the reasoning why the devs did some of the stuff that they did in that game? It's because this is what players wanted. It's actually because this is what Americans wanted. It's true. They're like, you know why we put guns in there? Americans love guns. All right. you got me. America, the only country that's got more guns than it does blades of grass.
It's accused of copying. But what's it copying? The best-selling, most popular pieces
That people
of
like.
the best-selling, most popular games.
That's it, man. That's the solution
Yeah.
to all of Hasbro's problems. Just make shit people like.
They take the,
Quit trying to dilute our content and make it to where it's friendly to everybody, because then it's friendly to no one.
You like Power World is giant right now. We've said it before. Make a summoner class that carries
for
little
real.
balls where they can throw out beasts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
For real.
I mean, there's definitely a homebrew of that.
There's a lot of good homebrews.
Oh yeah,
And
and the basic summoners and the summoner spells and everything that they've re-released in the playtest for summoners have all sucked.
go to these people that have created this content, and if you like it, hey, tell you what, we'd like to sell your content in a book. All right, we'll pay you so much based on how many people buy your stuff. Like if you give players the ability to do that, let's say we create a summoner class that people like. All right, we'll do this. Bolgg, he creates a summoner class that people like. I create a knight class that no one likes. All right, and we'll just use that. And we both put it on their website, their D&D Beyond website that they bought. And hey, if you want access to this, it'll cost you 10 cents. All right, cool. People like it, and they buy let's use $1. It's $1. But they buy Bolggs. They buy 10 copies of Bolggs. All right, so he makes probably about $4 off that deal. Nobody buys mine. Or actually, one person buys mine. All right, and I make 40 cents off the deal. All right, that's something they could do. They really could, and like kind of prop up some of these creators and stuff like that. And they could make money back, and they would help fix out some of their content issues, because players know what players want.
That was kind of their model with the DMs Guild. Like,
Yeah,
there was
and it worked
actually
out.
there was a book that was released, Xanathar's Guide to Everything Else. It was like it was a third-party sequel to the Xanthar's book.
Xanthar's
And
is...
in that book was what is now the Rune Knight that's in the newer books
No.
came from that book originally.
And
It was
that's
a
what
book that was available on the DM's Guild. But when you put stuff on the DM's Guild, you're basically giving Wizards of the Coast some licensing rights.
And that's the thing. Like, if you would just give back to the player, not only would you see people putting their creations on there, you could actually make whole books and stuff out of this and get into making more classes. You know, that's my biggest thing. And moving on to our next topic is classes in D&D. I'm tired of the homogenized classes that every class gets to do what the other classes do. There's no uniqueness about being a cleric anymore. And Paizo's does this great with Pathfinder. They've got like a bunch of different classes. And each one feels unique to its own right. We couldn't have a better summoner and stuff like that. I'm tired of seeing, like, I think each class deserves like a little bit of a subclass that makes it unique to, you know, if all three of us were playing like a barbarian party, you know, what makes us different. But it does, like, we have like 12 or 13 different types of barbarian subclass, but it does everything like other classes do. Why is there a storm barbarian that legitimately is just a storm sorcerer, but with fucking muscles?
Yeah.
Versus having a summoner where it's a fleshed out class where we actually, like, if they were to start putting new classes into the books, I think people would actually buy their books again. Get away from, like, revamp the artificer. Like, great idea, bad in practice.
Yeah, I think.
So, as I've mentioned on this podcast prior, I started my D&D adventures with 4th edition, and it gets a lot of hate, but I look back through some of my old books, and they have a bunch of different classes that don't exist in 5th edition. All of the psionics, for example. The summoner class you were talking about was very similar to the shaman. You know, they put out 3 players' handbooks for the course of 4th edition, and that's just something I haven't seen replicated in 5th edition for whatever reason.
They wanted to make it easy, and 5th edition did really good. Like, 5th edition should have been, like, the start of 5th edition should have been, you can take these 3 books and go play the game. And then instead, when they started making new books, instead of just carrying, like, maybe fixed classes, like Xanthar's and Tasha's went in and it fixed classes. Like, it's okay to go back and fix classes, but instead of adding to these classes, they should have said, okay, and also in this book, we've got the summoner, the alchemist, the gunslinger, and like and adding to these worlds and stuff like that. Because all you're telling me is that there's only like 12 individual things you can be in this world.
Well, and the decision they've made with the way they implemented subclasses in 5e, where in some classes it's just the flavor of priest you are. You know, it doesn't really change the nature of the class. But then in other classes,
it
like
fundamentally changes everything.
Yeah, being an alchemist artificer instead of being a gunslinger artificer are completely different artificer. You know, that decision right there, I think, has been part of the handicap that D&D 5th edition did to itself. Because there is a summoner, it is a wizard subclass, and you know, so you're getting everything a regular wizard gets, but then on 3 separate levels you get little advantages.
Then
it's
are
just
negligible too,
though, isn't it? Like,
it's terrible.
Why would I play a summoner wizard when I could play an Evok?
Right.
Yeah, because and you can tell that they favored certain classes in the game. Like, where certain ones get just so many more benefits and stuff like that, and you're just like, why is it even fun to play some of these? Like, you can find uniqueness into playing each and individual class and stuff like that, and it really is. I really enjoy seeing some of the weird builds that people come up with for BG3, but it'd be nice to see something different that actually works. That's the thing. Different.
I've mentioned before, my favorite class structure was the one that was in Final Fantasy Tactics, where everybody started as either a squire or an alchemist, And if you wanted to be a black mage, you had to have 3 levels in Alchemist, as your starter class, and then you could start learning the black mage class. If you had black mage and knight, you could then, I don't remember what the tree was off the top of my head, but you could maybe be a death knight or a eldritch knight by having 3 levels in Alchemist, 3 levels in black mage, and 3 levels in knight. You now had the prereqs required.
I think if you do a zero session though, it's. I think if you do a zero level, not a zero session, a 0 level, that's kind of fun, and it's actually a good way to kind of play it. Like, but you really can't have character backstory with a lot of that, because if you're starting out at 0 level, this is before you're an adventurer, and then level 1 is like you as an adventurer. But I like the idea of a 0 level, and then you can build up to these other classes. The issue is we just don't have anything to build into. If I grab a staff, how many classes can use a staff? And it's just like, okay, what makes me grabbing this staff and doing things differently? Oh, well, I cast Firebolt. Well, how many classes can cast Firebolt, including the elves and stuff like that?
Well, it's worse than that though now, because the way the subclass, some get their subclass at level 1, some don't get it till level 3. So you are not actually a full-fledged of that summoner, for example, until you are a level 3 D&D character right now. Because you're just a wizard for the first 2 levels, and then you pick up summoner as your subclass at level 3.
Yeah. I think that we.
And that's why a lot of campaigns don't start till level 3, because nobody wants to put up with that crap.
I really wish they would get away from subclasses on 1, and we talked about that. And then when they released the stupid, I still think it's stupid what they're trying to do, and I will hands down defend that argument to the end of this day. I think it's dumb that they went away from that. Like, everybody getting in at 3, you're kind of building up, kind of figuring out what kind of thief you want to be, what kind of warlock you want to be, what kind of, even a cleric. Like, let's say everyone started at 3. As you build up into that you kind of like figure it out. Like, if you're a frontline cleric, you're always out there and you're taking hits, and you're like, man, wouldn't it be really nice if I had a god that loved me enough to give me some kind of like heavier duty armor, and like, well, maybe the path of war is right for you. And that's where
I mean, I can see that. Like, you start out as a level 1 rogue, you get the taste, the flavor of what you're going to be doing.
Am I stealing? Am
maybe
I stabby?
Yeah, maybe you like the steely, that you go thief. Maybe you like the stabby, you go assassin. Maybe you like the fact that you have an elf and you can cast Firebolt. You feel that kind of flavor. Go arcane trickster.
Maybe you just like bossing people around and you become a pirate captain. That's the best.
You like the high seas and you become a swashbuckler.
Well, that'd be right. The best of us all.
If that's the way, I don't know. From the campaigns I've seen, that's not generally the way a lot of the players work it, though. They come in with the intention of becoming an arcane trickster before they ever started.
And that's the truth. That's the truth of it. But
yeah,
I think, though, I guess that's more playing towards like my fantasy of what I wish D&D players would do versus what they actually do.
Yeah,
because we all have an idea.
Yeah, and the game needs to be designed for the actual gameplay.
Yeah.
At which point, maybe you put something in the player's handbook that goes, hey, if you're an experienced player, you know exactly what you want to do, go ahead and start at level 3. If you're not, if you're new, if you're unfamiliar with these, go ahead and start at level 1 and build yourself up.
No.
I want us to start at level 1 and develop as you go. But we normally don't, because that's
not how it happens.
I need an applause button on this one, and I can't believe I gotta actually give Luke the applause for that one. I'll get an applause button for next time. Put that on my to-do list. But Luke's right. It should be that everybody's starting out level 1. Not, even if you have the idea, but you have that one guy that gets to get all his cool abilities at level 1. The only thing a cleric should have at level 1 is he should know who his god is. That's it. And paladins need God too. I'm just going to throw that one out there.
Yeah, and now I watching some of the videos online. The Critical Role people's new role playing game, Daggerheart.
Something like that, yeah.
Instead of doing the subclasses the way D&D does, they're apparently going to have a card, it's a 2-sided card. So like if you make a fighter, that card will have like you're an offensive fighter, so you get a plus to hit is what your subclass gives you. You flip it over and you chose the defensive path as your subclass, you get a plus to armor class. That's over. I'm sure I'm oversimplifying. The card has a lot of text and a lot of information.
But that's the benefit of like making almost like talent trees. You see this in World of Warcraft, obviously, and Path of Exile and
D100 systems.
Yeah, D100 systems really good right there. Like you have talent systems where you kind of build into how you want to play, and it's kind of fun to mess with these certain paths and stuff like that. Like that would be really cool for an individual class. And then you know what? If they were to do that, and then they actually went in and how you went down the class tree is how you got to some of these different specializations, I wouldn't mind it so much. It's just the fact that at level, let's say we're all level 3. Oh, I'm going to be an Eldritch Knight. Now I'm, no different than an Arcane. I'm no different than maybe, I can't think of, there's an Eldritch Knight ripoff with the, Blade Singer. A Blade Singer mage. And you're like, come on, bro.
Well, and you're also locked in at that point. Like,
well,
you have all this potential to go all these different paths before you start. And you're limited to these 12 paths.
Well,
and from those 12, you get these at level 3, all of a sudden you get your subclass. You don't get another specialization subclass for the next 17 levels.
Well, and Tasha's they introduced that, and I really didn't like it, is the fact that you can reset. You didn't like your choices, so you reset next level. Yeah. I was like, no, that's no.
I can see, like, especially there's players like Felix who, sometimes his ideas and what the execution don't work out the way he thought they would, and by the level 7 or 8, he's
regretting life decisions.
Let that character walk off into the sunset to replace him with a new character because, they're unhappy. So I could see why you would have rules to allow changes.
Goodbye forever.
To make that easier on the DM. It's not necessary. Because like I said, that's the other way to do it. That character leaves and a new character comes in.
Yeah. But I love this character. Obviously not enough.
Yeah. But because it would suck if you tooled a character for a heavy role play, heavy social campaign, and your DM is just a hack and slash. Mm-hmm. You're in 100 level dungeon fighting monsters with no role play.
I'll play a bard. You can role play anything as a bard. I'm going to play my lute.
And you've invested all in the social tree stuff, persuasion and intimidation.
Well, that's where, like I said, I'd like to see him get away from just the classes, and I don't think a talent tree system would be cool, but I don't think it would be the perfect. I think just make more classes. Get out of this idea that there only has to be 12. It's just kind of ridiculous. It'd be really nice to see, because if you make these 12 classes, then each one's gonna feel special. Like playing a poisoner, playing an alchemist is going to be really cool because you're making stuff that could either help your party or bane the enemy. That's really kind of cool. Or maybe you're playing a gunslinger. You're more of a sharpshooter than maybe the ranger, but you don't deal with pets and stuff like that. And it makes you feel, like I said, unique. That's the big thing. I want to feel like if it's a party of us, let's say the 4 of us are playing a game right now, and the DM's out there, I want to feel that I bring something to the group that none of you guys bring. And that's what you don't really get now, because you get celestial warlocks.
Everybody can pick locks now.
What?
Everybody can pick locks now.
Yeah.
You're
yeah, well, okay. I was talking about warlocks, but yeah.
Your thief who's the expert fails to pick this lock, So then your barbarian who's never picked a lock in his life gets to take a turn to try.
Yeah.
Well,
And because he's got a good dexterity, he can
Yeah.
unlock it. Like,
and that's where, like, as a barbarian, you should be, as a player, thinking, no, I'm gonna pick that lock in the way I know how. That door is coming down.
it takes the rogue and beats the chest with the lock, or beats the rogue against the lock. It's open.
What? Or you see a wall, you just walk right through it.
I can cast intangibility too. Bam. See, but that and that's where I'm getting at. When you do these classes and stuff like that, I just want to see. I want to feel like I bring something to the group. Like, I really do. Like, I want to be. And it's harder when you have bigger groups, for sure. But if it was like a 5-man group, let's say that we added a 5th in here and then we had the DM. I wanted to feel like each of us pulls in something that makes us feel special. Like when we played Baldur's Gate 3 together, like we each picked our own class and what really kind of like helped the party out as a whole. And what makes us really do well in these roles. And I don't feel like you get that.
I think part of it may be also party size. Like you said, that when we played Baldur's Gate 3, we all kind of fit into our niche. But if you've got 8-9 people at a table, everybody's playing to everybody. There's not really, like, you have 2 tanks, you have 2 healers, you have 2 magic users. It may be a rogue.
But even as a healer in that setting, I should feel like I do something different from the healer next to me. Let's say me and you are the healers and those 2 are the tanks. And then we got 2 other people with us. You as a healer, let's say you're a cleric, you specialize in making sure that the tanks stay alive. Like your whole sole focus is very single target, very point on. I can make sure that these guys are always alive. And my job is to blanket the party as a whole. So not only do I heal the tanks, but mine's not as strong as yours, but I also heal us and the 2 behind us. That kind of sense.
Well, let's pull actually up the Alchemist, okay? So you have the clerics, they do spells from range, up close, it heals for a fair amount. But let's say in the Alchemist class, you've got a subclass that's basically a pharmacist that deals with poison, disease, status effects, stuff that the others would have to spend a spell slot for. You just have to give an item action and they're fine. And that would be, a certain niche to fill that doesn't require spell slots.
Or maybe even that one of the mechanics I really liked in Baldur's Gate 3 is you could throw potions and heal people. And that's your Alchemist class right there. And it's more AoE spread healing. It's not as finite as the cleric or maybe a druid or somebody who would specialize in that. But that's a new class that can do something unique and specific. And it makes them feel special.
Yeah, you got the 2 classes, the 2 subclasses.
All right.
The healer subclass, the pharmacist, and then the poisoner subclass, the harmacist.
I like it. Where's our 40 cents there, D&D, Hasbro, Wizards of the Coast? I want my 40 cents. But that's what it breaks down to. Like, if we get away from just trying to build up these subclasses for these just 12 classes and actually start building more classes as a whole, I think you could have some really cool stuff. I love some of the classes that Pathfinder has, like the Witch Doctor and all this. And then you can get even into prestige classes. Imagine spending so many levels in something that you actually get a prestige class and you feel really awesome because you are now the Arcane Ranger.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting at with the Final Fantasy Tactics example.
Yeah,
I think they need the prestige class. Like, if you take 3 levels in Rogue and take the Assassin class, take 3 levels in Monk and take the Shadow Monk class, you could now qualify the prestige class into the Ninja class. And that ninja class gives you special benefits.
Yeah,
I can see that, like taking the Cavalier fighter, mixing that with a little paladin, you've got a crusader.
Yeah, man, that would be a really awesome. It's just hard to do that because mounted combat in D&D is kind of.
Well, yeah,
but that would be really
for
cool.
that example. But think of all the examples you could come up with of where the summoner. You take the summoner from the wizard, and then you take like the druid, which the summoner one.
Path of the Land.
Path of the Land from the druid, and come up with the
shepherd,
the Merlin's shepherd, the Path of the Shepherd, and you come up with the Merlin version of the shaman. What
It'd be.
I can't think of a name of it right now, but a real summoner.
One, it would actually give multi-classing something that feels like beneficial.
A demonologist. That would be the name for it. The demonologist.
That's a warlock in World of Warcraft, but yeah.
Yes, I know.
But
warlock who summons a lot.
They really did well with that in World of Warcraft, and then they've kind of messed it up recently. But that's my arguments right there to it. Like, you could do so much more if you got away from building like 1,001 different subclasses that just are kind of like lackluster. When's the last subclass that's come out that you've been excited for?
That lived up to the excitement, or that I was expecting to be good?
Expecting and lived. Let's do both.
Rune Knight, I think, was the last one.
That's about it.
What was the giant barbarian that came out recently? Well, basically the Hulk barbarian. That one looked kind of cool.
In the Book of Giants, that they left one of the classes out of because it didn't play test well, and instead of replacing it with one that did, they just left it out.
Well, that's that's what I'm saying.
I think the psychic knife one that was in Tasha's. I can't remember it's the rogue, the psychic rogue. I was excited for, and then I was disappointed when it really came.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you could really do this, and these classes could be fun if you just did. You get away from this idea that we're gonna make everything do everything, and it's just gonna be filtered down. Because everybody ends up going back to the more powerful options anyway. Like, when's the last time we played something out of a new book? Like, I don't think I ever go anything past Tasha's, and I usually revert back to like Xanthar's anyway. It's like I love Tasha's a lot, very favorite, but I think Xanthar's is actually my favorite.
I did the last thing I played was the Dragon Rider Ranger. That was in the Dragon's book. I can't remember the name of the Dragon's book now.
The Rune Knight was my last one.
Yeah, and that's it, man. Like, so you're not. Yeah, it goes back to the conversation we had in the first part of the video. It's just not making stuff that people want to play.
And I was disappointed in that one too, by the way, because
I believe
it's one of those things. The idea of having your own dragon with you, who grows and gets bigger and stronger as you go, but that costs your own development.
That should be a creation of the just the Beastmaster.
Going with what Loke was saying with the trees and the prestige and all that, it would actually fix a problem I'm having in his game right now, where I completely misread an ability that I had, and it basically ruined my character when I fixed it. If I could go into, start going into levels of monk, and instead of having a cleric, have some levels in monk and have a battle priest and had a new set of abilities that would be better for, a damage dealing cleric up front using dex instead of strength, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
But as it is, I'm just going to have to go into monk and choose which thing I'm going to be able to do.
That's where I want to end on that one. It just really is. Can we get away from making some classes and just make more classes, or do prestige? Make it feel like that would make multi-classing feel amazing. Being able to come,
it would give purpose to the multi.
Yeah.
Right now, a lot of multi-classing is I got everything I needed out of fighter. Nothing new for the next 10 levels is good for fighter, so I might as well multi-class the next 10 levels into something else. So I'm
So, I do want to talk about this. Probably our final topic. The PHB for this new edition. Oh God, I love saying that because that's really what it is. Backwards compatibility. There's no backwards compatibility. Everybody who's made that argument, you have not convinced me enough to say that there's nothing ever works great about this backwards compatibility. It's not going to be. It might as well be a new edition. And you tell me how it works when you have two players that want to play the same thing in two different versions.
Or want to cast the same spell, but those two spells have two different versions.
Yep.
Same spell name, same level, same cost, same class, but one wants to use the 2014 summon animals, and the other wants to use the 2024 summon animals.
Yeah. And have fun with that one. Tell me how that works. Backwards compatibility. Such a stupid concept. But they recently released, and you sent this to me, Loke, and I haven't really seen too much about it, that they came out, and obviously they had the banner that said it was coming out in May of 2024.
Yeah.
TBD.
In their most recent video, Jeremy Crawford says,
my favorite person in the world?
Yeah, your favorite person in the world. I'm paraphrasing, not quoting word for word here. You guys can go watch the video yourself. But basically, he says,
link down in the description.
When they put that on stage behind them, they were completely unaware that that was there. And so when this video came out, he was clarifying that the books are not coming out in May. They will still be working on the books in May. Almost like they saw our videos with my theory that they've been gaslighting us.
I think so.
To reach the May release date.
The thing is with that too is like, how are you gonna tell me that you didn't know?
Yeah.
You are the lead game designer.
Yeah.
And you didn't walk up and go, hey guys, that banner's wrong. We need to take that down. You went up to the table, you didn't look. You just sat down and go, yeah, everything's hunky-dory in the world. Everything's going to be good. Oh, by the way, that's wrong. Like you're
I think it might have been a digital banner.
Even then, how do you walk into any setting like that and not know what's around you, bro?
Yeah.
I have been a producer.
Even if you didn't, the next day when it's going like wildfire on the internet, how do you not release a retraction or
They don't know what the hell's going on over there, and that's the truth about it. Because I'm going to tell you, I used to produce be a producer for the Bubba the Love Sponge show down in Tampa, Florida, and before we did any of our major events, we had to do so much preparation just to set in and go, okay, do we have our t-shirts? Are they rolled up? Are they folded correctly? Are the cards for the on-air staff to sign, are they ready? Are they signed? Because the guys sometimes would pre-sign them, so that way they could just hand them out and stuff like that. Everything has to be specific. And you're going to tell me, Wizards of the Coast, bigger name. I would say it's a bigger name than Bubba used to be, but it's pretty, okay. You're going to tell me that you didn't have some producer that come through there and wasn't double-checking everything? Every little thing going, okay, is this correct? Hold on. This does May 2024. That's not correct. We got to take that away. Just do this. You're telling me somebody didn't do that? Jeremy Crawford, you're so full of crap, bro.
You see that, audience? That's casual representation right there. But yeah, absolutely. Somebody should have been paying attention and taking that shit down if indeed it was not meant to be there.
Right.
And so
now, if they got caught gaslighting us and have now changed the release date as a result,
I'm just gonna throw that one out there. Yeah, we were right. Again, I don't want to be right. I tell this to people all the time, bro. I don't want to be right all the time. I would rather be wrong, because if I'm wrong, that means that things are going good. Like, because I'm very cynical like I've become more pessimistic with a lot of things and cynical about a lot of things too. At the same time, I would rather be wrong about this. I'd absolutely 100% rather every one of us be wrong about a lot of things. And that way, it would be good things coming out. And prove me wrong.
Yeah.
That's the thing. But every time it turns around and we give Wizards the benefit of the doubt on this crap, they somehow find a way to shank us in the shaft.
They've also decided they have enough data from the play tests.
Oh yeah, you're
and the UA for this player handbook that all further testing will be done in-house. They're not going to release any more UAs for this player's handbook.
I wonder where they might have gotten called out on that one too.
Yeah.
God, it's like we've said these things before. Hold on. Oh, Bolgg, where do you think we might have heard this one at?
The dinner table.
Oh yeah,
That's where I hear things.
That's where it's usually where we sit here and talk most about this. It's like the players already know.
Yeah, first they should be
He's lost for words, boys. And girls.
redoing their UA surveys in a game setting. Just go to conventions, have them fill out survey forms, get your average player.
Like you can go to like a convention or something like that and have like a special room. Hey, we've got several DMs here. We're gonna have like several of our Wizards DMs right here. You're gonna come on in. They're gonna run a small little one shot for you. Unfortunately, we're gonna be using pre-gen characters. We want to see what you think about how this works. Boop, 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 boop. Everybody gets their stuff. They get a nice little gift bag for participating, and you're like, cool, I got Wizards of the Coast Die. All right. And then you play it, and you go, okay, well, when I was doing this, it felt like it was harder to do than what Bolgg was doing, but I did like what Loke was doing. Why is that class getting to do that? Can my class have something like that? Mr. Producer, he hated everything altogether. He just wants to scrap it from the ground up. All right, could you write that down in this survey? Absolutely. Da-da-da-da. Okay, here you go. All right, thank you. Have a nice day. Enjoy your gift bag. And you keep doing that at different conventions, and you change it up. And then all of a sudden, you finally, like, players are like, well, yeah. Now, it does kind of skew to people who go to conventions, but here's the thing. The people who usually go to conventions are people who buy the product. And if they're buying the product and they like it, guess what? People are going to talk about it. And if they're talking about it, they're going to want to buy more of it.
Yeah, but I agree the method would be a good idea, but it takes time and money that corporate just isn't willing to spend. I don't think when they can just put it online and then they don't have to pay.
They're already at Gen Con though.
They're already throwing so much other fucking money away on these dumbass other modules that just don't work. If they're willing to do that, granted they probably aren't right now. If they're willing to do that dumb shit, they could be willing to go to hang out at Gen Con and all these other ones. And like, you don't have to do I wouldn't do every little con that pops up on the map. I would do a couple of little cons and send just a couple people. You're a toy company, print out a couple of goodie bags, send somebody down there, pay for a cheap, Holiday Inn. Paramus.
Also easier to correlate the data from those 20 live tables than the 40,000 responses they got to the first UA survey.
I'll even throw you in this and help them make some money back. You charge people $5. People are going to want to say, oh, I could get in on the play test, and for $5, I could kind of see what they're working on. Bro, I would pay for that. As a D&D podcast, bro, who's not pitching this idea to Wizards right now? Because this is it. This is the most ingenious thing I've come up with, and I'm an idiot.
Your words.
No argument.
Yeah, look, I'll be the first one to tell you, like, I'm a dummy. Like,
we are for once all a unanimous decision.
Yeah, you know what? Shut the hell up, all of you. Y'all are the greatest friends I've ever wanted to kill. But that's the truth. Like, I'll always tell people I'm an idiot. I'm a goober, bro. Like, that's the part about it, man. Wizards, I work for you. You just pay me whatever you're paying Jeremy Crawford and fire him. I hate that guy, bro. I still laugh at the video where he had that designer, that game designer with him that does the DM's book, and the dude had just those soulless eyes, like I'm afraid to talk, or this dude's gonna kill me. Like I was like, man, that's in a bad position. And as soon as he said something, Jeremy was quick on there. Yeah, no, this is what we're doing with it too. I was like, bro, shut the hell up. God, man, I hate that guy so much. I don't even know him. He could probably. So in the radio world, it's just sidetrack. This is our last thing. We'll say our goodbyes. In the radio world, you have Ryan Seacrest, and people in the radio world hate Ryan Seacrest because he's syndicated everywhere, and it takes away good jobs from jocks, from really good jocks. And I was like, I hate him just on the premise of that alone. But I'm sure he's like the nicest guy in the world that you'd ever want to meet and just want to go like, he's like, hey man, how's it going? You want to go ride in a Ferrari? Hell yeah, that would be cool. I still hate you on principle. But with Jeremy Crawford, it's not me hating him on principle. It's me hating him for legitimate things.
Having never met him.
Never met him. Never met the dude. He could be knocking on my door right now. I wish somebody knocked on my door right now. That'd be hilarious. But he could be knocking on my door right now, and yeah, I'd be like, piss off, bro. You want a cup of coffee? I'd give you a cup of coffee. You piss off. Oh.
No, you wouldn't. You'd give him the cup of coffee, sit him down, and go, okay, here's everything that's fucking wrong.
Oh, yeah. You sit down in my living room. We're going to talk. You don't even get to pet my dogs. You
don't get to leave till you agree to change this.
No. That
This is
sounds
not
kind of
a
kidnapping.
hostage situation.
Is it
just
still
came in.
kidnapping when you're a pirate?
It's true.
Fucking
It's
Shanghai.
true. I just came in so I could change my tire. Oh, this is Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's Recipes for Everything. I appreciate everybody's hung out with us so far. Make sure, if you agree or have any comment on any of this, do me a favor, drop a comment down in there. We would love hearing from you. We really enjoy these bits. Some of y'all are very vocal and have points that we miss. We really enjoy that. Make sure you like the video. If you haven't subscribed yet, it really helps us out, and we're really appreciating everybody who's done so far. We really want to continue growing with us. You can find us on all of our social medias. It's very simple. Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's Recipes for Everything. It's hard to miss the big lug's face. It's very big. It's very green. But with that being said, say goodbye, Bolgg.
Goodbye, Bolgg.
Say goodbye, Luke.
See ya.
And goodbye, Mr. Producer.
Later, guys.
As always, happy adventures. Yarr.
You've been listening to Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's Recipes for Everything, featuring Loke the Bard. Like, follow, subscribe, and share this podcast. You can also find them on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Just search for Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's Recipes for Everything. Questions, comments, and mutiny requests can be sent to bolgandpc@gmail.com. And as always, happy adventures.